What is the most useless invention you have seen? Last year for Christmas my insane aunt gave me a breakfast sandwich maker. I sold it before I used it, but the instructions made it look like you had to cook everything first, and then you insert the food in some slots, and it will stack them up to make a sandwich. Stupidest thing I've ever seen. Been watching some old episodes of Shark Tank recently to come to mind. One guy had a webcam blocker, so people don't spy on you by hacking your webcam. That's a real concern. But his offered solution was a little plastic clip, I forget the name he gave it, that you pop on your computer or smartphone, so it covers the lens. He was selling them for $10 each. Mark Cuban asked him why anyone would pay him $10 when they could just use a post-it note that they probably had lying around anyway to do the same thing. The guy's response was, "You're right. This is my biggest competition," and then pulled a stack of those alternating side post-its out of his pocket and waved them around, and then said, "Who wants these stuck all over your computer?" and forgets about them though. He was prepared. He had apparently thought of the reason his invention was useless and plowed ahead anyway. The second one was the elephant in the room. Literally, that was their product. The inventors were a couple that had met and gotten married in 6 weeks and had a genius product for conflict resolution based on their 18 months of marriage. It was a little plastic box with a cover over it that had a plush elephant inside. You leave it on your coffee table or whatever, and when one spouse needs to talk to the other they remove the cover and reveal the elephant in the room, so when the other person comes in and sees it, they know they need to talk about something. Ya know, rather than just going up to their spouse and speaking to them like a sane adult. Also, they were selling them for $60 a pop for a 6-inch plastic cube with the $2 plush elephant in it. Cocktail napkins. They completely fail at their purpose. It doesn't keep the bar dry. They turn into a wet pile of shit in just a few minutes. They stick to the bottom of whatever you're drinking, unless, like a troglodyte, you put a bunch of salt on it. Also, in some locations, they just blow the fuck away. Next time you see someone open a bunch of cocktail napkins, think to yourself, 100% of that will be thrown in the dump after unsatisfactorily fulfilling their mission. Coasters, on the other hand, are superior in almost every way. Keep the bar dry. Reusable. Collectible, I guess. Can put the bar's name on it. Won't blow away. Won't soak. Oh, maybe you can't stuff them inside the neck of a beer, but I don't want people doing that with cocktail napkins anyways. My granddad was a NASA master machinist for the Saturn series rockets. On his break times, using a bit of spare metal, he'd create little trinkets and gifts for my grandmother, and one he created for my dad and uncles was what he called a do-nothing machine. It consisted of a solid steel rectangle about 3x3 inches, and maybe a ½ inch thick with 2 grooves cut in a cross pattern, and a handle to make 2 plates move back and forth within the grooves as you spun the handle. My dad and uncles never found anything useful for it, and when I was a kid I would try, and fail, to crack nuts to eat with it. If anyone else is curious as to what the hell I'm talking about, look on Google for a do-nothing machine. You often see this advertisement about the wristband that gives you electric shocks as a punishment if you try to break a bad habit, like smoking. This is called aversion therapy. Well, this electric shock wristband has no magical sensors to detect when you are doing what you want to stop, and you have to push a button to give you the electric shock. If you would just use a rubber band around your wrist and let it slap on your wrist as a punishment, you would basically get the same result for a fraction of the price of the electric shock band. Years ago, the Coors company advertised beer cans that turned blue when they were cold enough. An ingenious idea, considering that you might find out if they are cold enough by holding them in your hand or getting them from the refrigerator. This great invention was worthy of multiple commercials selling the product only because of this. Perhaps the quality of beer is a reverse correlation to the dumbness of this idea. Many microtransactions that affect gameplay exist solely to solve problems that the game devs deliberately introduced. If they help you bypass grind, they made the game grindy. If they help you do more damage, They balanced enemies to be more durable. If they give you more storage space, they limited it in the first place. Anything you have to pay for that adds convenience or an advantage is designed to overcome an obstacle the devs put in your way to make you want to buy. Even something like Path of Exile, which is free to play, has premium stash tabs for those who don't want to manually manage their inventory. That is at least forgivable given the sheer amount of unsorted space free players get, and its free to play model. But some games go out of their way to make resource management as frustrating as possible. There was a TV show on True TV called World's Dumbest, and each episode would be just a collection of different videos with celebrities reacting to them. They had World's Dumbest Inventions where they showed off dumb crap. I think the worst was a plastic thing sort of shaped like a dog. So if your dog wouldn't stop humping things, it had a designated thing to hump. Remember that kid who even made it to medias about making a machine to harvest free energy using coils and a spoon, and the sucker journalists ate it up? Yeah, that. It's useless to boot. Sure, he did indeed harvest enough energy to barely light up a few low-powered LEDs, but was completely bullshitting, as that few cents worth of free energy he was harvesting was just his dad's several $100 electrical bill he took it from. This'll get buried, but it's an invention that 8-year-old me came up with for a school project. It was a giant tape player that you kept in the fridge and put your milk on. The weight of the milk would trigger the play button, playing an audio recording saying you do not need to buy milk. Then, when the milk was running low, it would be too light to hit the play button and the absence of the audio would indicate that it's time to buy milk. All that including hitting the stop and rewind buttons almost every time you put the milk away for something a person could easily see.